herzlich willkommen hier im Kaispeicher Altona in den Büroräumen von Bivamau B99 und verschiedenen anderen Architekturbüros. Unter anderem sitzt die Fritz-Schumacher-Gesellschaft auch so ein bisschen hier. Mein Name ist Katja Pahl und ich begrüße Sie ganz herzlich als Vorsitzende der Fritz-Schumacher-Gesellschaft hier heute Abend. I'm very happy that we have 3 international guests from Brussels. We never had 3, almost all the partners of label architecture here. That's really great that you all came to talk to us. 2 of you talk to us, 1 listens. And that's Michel Lefebvre, Thibaut Rome, and Christophe Pham, the one I always talked on the phone, sorry. So we are really happy that you are here. Label Architecture is quite a young firm from Brussels. They started their office with a spectacular project, one can say, with the curation of the Venice Biennale Pavilion for Belgium in 2006. And that had the nice title, The Beauty of the Ordinary, how I got into a fight with my neighbor. Probably you will not talk about that today, but it sounds very interesting. So this lecture is the last one in our series about school buildings in this season, and we are very happy that you came because you really built very special, beautiful school buildings, and we invited you especially because you do that in the middle of the city, and you most of the time, if I got that right, you it's like an addition to something which already exists, and it's in very dense context. So that's really interesting for us to see. We don't have that so much here in Germany, I would say. So now I didn't look at what I wrote up here. Maybe I forgot a lot of things to introduce you, and you have to add that by yourself. We are happy to have you here, and who of you will talk? Both? You both? Okay. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Katja. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you to the Fritz-Schumacher Society to invite us. I'm Michel, Christophe, Thibaut. We're all, you already introduced our office. This is the whole team, so we're not a lot. We're a small team based in Brussels. This is our new office. We just moved in June, a little piece of it. Today we'll show you 5 different projects. Some are schools, some are extension. As Thibaut used to say, every building, even if it's a new building, is an extension to the landscape. So they are all extensions. The first project we'll talk about is a very small one, made in 2009. Superjumat. I will give the mic to Christophe to explain it.
Hello. So Superjumat, in fact, comes from here. Jumat is a brand of it's a little project which doesn't have very much link with schools, but at the same time is that it has a lot of thematics that we developed later on. So Jumat is a brand in the 70s for prefab houses. It was a bit like Jean Prouvé, what he tried to make for in 54 with helicopter delivering houses, but in a totally other context. Here it's more in a Belgian context. It's a bit industrial, but as well a bit conservative. Up here next. So here it's a bit the landscape we were confronted to. It's a semi-dense landscape, global landscape in the suburbs of Brussels. So the house is here, and as you can see, the whole street looks a bit the same with pitch roof, and there is a lot of importance of the cars and the garage. So a bit like the Simpsons. So we show you first images of what we didn't want to make. The client wanted absolutely a kitchen and a pool at the back, but the context was so strong. We thought worth it really to make an expressive contemporary little jewel at the back, or to really take the context such as it is, and when the context is stronger, sometimes it's useful to use it as a first material. So it's a bit literal, but we extend it literally. It's so this is the existing plan on the left side with the garage, and at the back on the right side the garden. And we just add a kitchen and a swimming pool, and add a little living upstairs. So in section, it's like a half story going from the garage till the kitchen, so you can deliver your grocery and have the view on the landscape at the back. So yeah, it was not meant to be an extension of high-class architecture, nor architecture of extensions, but more, our goal was more to work on a global environment, with pitch roof, with wooden lintel, with the context. So here you can see the images from the existing living room till the kitchen and till the garden on the left side, and it's really a kitchen dug, such as it would have been earth. It's really dug in the ground, and on the semi-level you can reach the upper level, the upper living room. Here on the right side, it's the new extension, looking like the old ones. So we developed the same lintels, at the same details as the existing houses, with wooden lintels, with a pitch roof, but we decide to displace a bit, to have a cut. I will just go back to the section to begin really with architecture here, and not here, such as what was attended. So here you have another view. It's like a collision between the earth and the facade, and as well between the swimming pool and the windows. So those are really basic ideas, but once we take it till the end, it needs a lot of time and effort to develop the details between the link between the glass and the windows, the glass and the swimming pool. It takes time to develop, but yeah, that's how details are often goes after a global idea, and it's not the details for the detailing, it's details that are developed with a general idea of the project. Here is an image during the night, so you can see the kitchen, and above the living room, and you can see also that we cannot control everything, that it's well appropriated, but our job stopped at one time. I pass the mic to Michel, that will present another extension, but in a total different scale and context.
Thank you. Yeah, the second project we wanted to show you is a school. It's a much bigger one. In fact, it's our biggest project at the time. It takes place inside the historical center of city Mechelen. Mechelen is a city between Brussels and Antwerp. Middle-scale city, I would say. But yet, you can see that the plot we worked on is located in the very historical center of Mechelen. You still have the medieval limits of the city here. So a context that was quite complex because very dense, and also historical context. This is the plot we worked on, which is already quite densely built. A big part of the plot is already occupied by the school, which has those big buildings. And in fact, we had to add 34 new classroom and 2 sports hall for kindergarten, primary school, and secondary school. So a huge volume to put in. And we had lots of trials. In fact, we took 2 years with the urban planners of the city to to succeed in after the 8th project, we we had a solution. So those are trials, volumetric trials. But this is the solution we came in the end, quite simple one. In fact, there are two main buildings. One for kindergarten and primary school is filling up the urban fabric, the existing urban fabric. And the other one is connected to an existing building of the school, but yet it's more a freestanding simple block, which is quite high, quite dense, but reason is also because doing this we will leave more space for outdoor spaces because students also go outdoor. In fact, this building, we will more focus on this one. It was in fact too big to hide, so we decided to make it a story because yeah, the historical context and everything, it was quite a discussion. And thinking about that, we just bumped into this existing building, which is not in Mechelen but in Brussels. It's not far from our office at the time. Sorry, yeah, I don't know how I need to handle this, but this existing building was quite strange, and we find it enigmatic, like it's very monolithical. You don't really know when it was built or what is in there, and so we were pretty much interested by this strangeness, and we tried to transpose it into the our block, and doing this, we find that it was there was an interesting dialogue with the big partition walls that were already on the plot. There were huge brick partition walls already there, and that were not meant to be covered by the other buildings. So, yeah, we transposed this interest we got in the other building just to make it okay. Was it there before, or is it an industrial building that was refurbished, or is it newly built? You don't really know the answer. And in fact, the solution came to be a good one, also for the urban planners. And even the client asked us to make it 1 story higher, because let's say if it's big, then let's make it big. Yeah, detailing a bit more this building. In fact, the volume is very simple, and it's meant to shelter the biggest space we had to shelter, which is the sports hall. And so the building has almost the exact dimension of the sports hall, adding the circulation and the storage. And we decided to put the sports hall on top of the building, quite naturally, because sports hall needs a big span. and then we could cover the span with quite light steel beams. If we would have put the classroom on top of it, it would have been huge concrete beams. And yeah, so under the sports hall there are three stories of classrooms. Quite simple organization. In fact, there's a central circulation with in extension to the circulation of the existing building. As we're speaking about schools, and this lecture is maybe about school, yeah, for example, those classes are lab classes, science lab classes, and they are meant to be connected together. And this is the experimental space where the teacher, so the teacher can, in fact, give a lesson to two classes at a time. So he starts with one, say, yeah, start doing things like this, and then he goes to the other. This is the picture of the central circulation, which is very simple, but we made it a little bit bigger than needed, just because it's a building meant for teenagers, and everybody knows that everything happens in the circulation when you're a teenager. These are the classroom. This one is the one lab. And in fact, on a structural point, you can see that it's a very simple structure scheme. You have two structural lines in the middle, and so those span are smaller. We can use mainly prefab concrete construction because of the budget and because it's quite fast to build. And this prefab construction is meant to be the more generic as possible, the more systematic also. So all the windows are the same, and the slabs are the more possible 3. And this is something we kind of try and generalize in our practice. Our practice is to to construct building that can become smart runes. This is a quote by Bob van Reet, which was the Flemish bouwmeester at the time, and he said a building should be at least the structure should be able to be transformed in 100 years or 200 years. You can still use the building. There will be slabs, there will be windows, and you can change the rest, but you can still keep the skeleton. And so on this very generic skeleton, we put a brick cladding, which comes a bit like a dress on the building, and this brick cladding also brings solution to the inner plan, because some windows are not needed, so we just close them with the bricks. But still, we wanted to keep them a little on the facade. We did this using, in fact, the same type of, there's only one type of brick in the whole building, even for both buildings. The only difference we make is in the way the joints are made. So this one is a little inner, this one is a flat joint, this one is an outer joint. And you can see that the inner and the flat are meant for the whole facade, and the outer joint is for the windows. And this gets back to the story of the building, is that maybe it was an existing building, and that the builders had to close the frames from the inside, so they cannot access the mortal So they leave the mortal as it is. Of course, brickworks are very important in the Flemish part of Belgium, because it's a really hard thing, like the it's an identity. So it's quite easy to put different buildings in dialogue. Even the social housing here, which is not in brick but still has the same color. Yeah, this is another illustration of after. Yeah, and sometimes the windows are open also. This one is open because it's an open staircase, outdoor staircase. And this is the courtyard of the kindergarten. And you can see that there's a slight difference between this part of the brick walls and this part. And this is because this one is the inner drawing, this one is the flat one. And again, we try and fake like maybe it was at first a two-story building and they built another one on top. A bit, in fact, this is also the story of the project, because the urban planners wanted it one story under, and then we could put it one higher. So we kind of kept this trace. And so in the end, I think we are quite happy with the result. And I think we propose some kind of, I don't know, in French we call it an uchronie. It's like utopia, but not topos, but chronos. So it's like an alternative reality to that could have happened. So yeah, was the building there before? And I think, in fact, this is another way to integration in a context. And in fact, we tried this one. Okay, Christophe will explain the third project.
So, yeah, that was the project you were meant to see, but it was impossible because yeah, it's another extension of a school program which takes place in Brussels. Yeah, no, it's here. It's in Saint-Josse, a poor and really dense district. Often it goes along. It's one of the poorest and one of the denser districts in the whole Belgium. It's close to the center. I don't know what it means, but I've just checked today that it counts almost 24,000 inhabitants per square meters. It's around 43 square meters per person. It's really built. It's so all the streets are a lot of row houses goes along the streets, but they don't have so much places, so they build things inside the old gardens. So on the left side here you have, for example, all the equipment are more inside. So you have here an elderly houses, a school, another school, an hospital, and a bit further you have the office district. So those are a view from the sky. In plan, the program is composed by two things. One is the daycare for the little children, and the school for the primary and the kindergarten. And here on with the red dot in the program, in the competition, it was really a small competition at the beginning. They asked us a new sanitary block because usually they put all the toilets in in the outside space, and now they wanted for hygienical reasons to have it inside. And they've had also these houses, but it's really a common domestic houses, and they wanted to put 3 new classes in that building. So here is the existing building, and on the right side is the little houses. But we decided to add and to concentrate the program at the same place, and to add those 3 classes really in the plot. So for facility reason, for circulation reasons, for everything. But by doing so, by increasing the density, you increase as well the context, and so you have to take care a bit of the outside places. So it needs open areas that are bigger. So here is the top view with the kindergarten places. It looks like huge interventions, but in fact it's really a lot of tiny interventions. So there is the open space for the kindergarten at the top, the 3 classrooms just underneath it, another playground places in addition of the existing outside space, and a corridor that gives access to the existing classroom, because before that you had to cross one class to get to the other one, and by adding that second skin you could also it's not ideal to have rooms in with second daylights, but here it was so crowded that we've added really tiny interventions. So even so there are tiny interventions, we try to keep a dialogue and to be quiet with the different materials. So the interventions at the top has a bit the same quality as the underneath one. The windows dimensions are the same as the original classroom, and we've took a bit attention of the structure and the color of the existing materials. So this is the plans from the top. This is the daycare, and they profit from that area at the top, looking at the streets. Those are really cheap solutions, but those are just net for playground places, but by repeating it gives a lot of transparency, and also we like to work with common materials and to, I don't know, how to by tuning them a bit, we kind of I don't know how to translate it to make it better, but we often look at ordinary things with another step. So this is only the plan to show where stands the corridor, and that was the existing open area. So this is the view from the inside. This is the existing wall with a rough coating. We call it cimentage Tyrolean coating. I don't know, it's a bit rough. And on the other side, the new part with the same windows. And in fact, they are so huge that they don't lack so much of, even so if it's not immediate lighting, it's still, the proportions gives a lot of daylight during the day. The corridor are also used for other purposes. You can, it's really well used by the children. Here it shows also, the corridors leading to the different classroom, the little sanitary block that was asked that are now inside. And what it shows, it's also, this is a collage from underneath the open structure we've had, but it shows the importance of the foot that every foot, even so if it's a kind of heavy beton structure, we can every time play with different elements and thus give a sense of small scale elements. So as I said, every foot is developed as a thematic to climb, to draw to hide and seek, to slide. Even so, if it looks monumental. Here is a picture from the back with the upper playgrounds, and such as Superjumat, the first project. What we like is also to play with the existing and the new building. Where does it stop? In fact, we reused the existing bricks and decide to make it appear such as the extensions began here. But in fact, this is reused windows. This is reused bricks. But by doing so, we push a bit the limit further and I don't know, compose with the whole plot and not just add small jewelry, but we kind of play with the whole environment. So as I said before, it's close to the office building from the 58. There is a whole administrative district. And yes, there is a clip of Front 242 with Front 242. It's a nice new wave band, but it's really a huge building with curtain walls. And yeah, it was also one thematic to play with those frames that are not in curtain walls, but only with playground nets, and to still give the thematic volumes of what could have been a nice perspective with the city. So, Michel, the next project again.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the fourth project we show. I hope you're not sleeping. But yeah, two more. I will find my notes. Yeah, so this one is a bit of a school. It's located in a very countryside environment. It's a daycare center for autistic spectrum disorder people, quite heavy ones. And it's also a dwelling for those residents. There are two dwelling units of 6 people. So the intention behind this is to keep it in a more family scale. So not to put a big dwelling of 12 people, but 2 times 6. So there are already 2 parts of the program. So the existing building is this one, and it was already extended in the 70s with some kind of quite poor quality building, constructive poor quality, because the building was almost falling down. So the first step we made in the project, which was a step that was asked by the client, is to get rid of the extension and to keep the main building existing. In fact, at first the demands of the client and what was in the mind of the client was to add a new volume, to put the dwelling area into this existing building and to make a new contemporary building for the daycare center, a separate building. What we did, as you saw before, is quite different. In fact, we took advantages of the very symmetrical and rigorous composition of the existing building to extend it on the sides, and putting the 2 dwelling units. So the program was already symmetric. So the building just like asked for it, and we put these extension on the side walls that were almost blind. There was already the connection for the new extension, in fact. And so yeah, I can go on the plans. So if we have a look at the plans, this is the ground floor plan. In the middle, we have the day center. You have some classrooms, dining area, common dining areas, a bit of a office for administrative team. And on both sides, you have the same dwelling unit. Here is the living space. And they each have a separate staircase and lift. It was quite important also, as we understood from the team, to have very clear spatial marks for the resident. So everyone has a door for the place where he stays. On the first floor, here in the extensions, we have some bathrooms and also some play spaces and therapy spaces. And on the existing building, we find six sleeping rooms on both sides. And in the middle, you will find the offices of the team that stays at night, and the caring team. And, yeah. Here in the section, you can see that the living space is on double height, and the first floor connects to the existing. This is a view from the caregiver office. You can see that the surrounding is very natural and peaceful, which is, I suppose, a good idea for this kind of program. And these are the living space, which are curvy. We were talking about it previously, but at one time the team told us that it was quite important to find some fluid space for people with autistic spectrum disorder. And in the end, it becomes also quite convenient to finish the building and give the building a feeling of unity, and maybe it gets back. In fact, this existing building was built in the 40s, and it was built as a hospital, so it refers a little bit to the sanatorium of the beginning of the 20th century. And to build those extension, in fact, we, as you can understand now, we like to copy things. But these were several trials, and in fact, the first trials we were trying to copy it quite literally, and in the end, we came a bit more to an abstraction of the rigorous composition of the existing building. And so we used the brickwork, maybe more like a pencil to draw the facade, more than building exactly the same facade. So yeah, the white concrete lintel are now marked by vertical bricks. And yeah, we put some blind windows also. This view we find interesting because you can see here how the existing building and the new one is interacting and there is a bit sharing with each other. Yeah, and this is the last view I will show you. It's almost at night. And for the last project, Christophe will take.
So that project is an extension of a sport complex with sleeping facilities aside for schools, but we won't develop that part. We will focus more on the project, on the sport complex. It's also an extension. It takes place in a green context in the suburbs of Charleroi. It has also a tiny house with pitch roof and open green sports area. There are also a huge road crossing the site. On one side, on the left side here, you have the sports area. It's really marked by the sport surfaces. It has really orthogonal drawing because of the functionality of the sports. And on the other side, you have it takes place in an old barn from the 19th century. You have the sleeping facilities and the restaurant. What was asked is also to link the building because there is that huge streets with people going really fast, and the question was how to cross the streets without danger, and how to bind the two different sides. So here is a few sketches. What was asked is a new sports area with a climbing room. We took that as more of a game with like a puzzle with several operations to fill in the program. Those operation was in the beginning it was a cut and paste and to extract and mirror things to add things on a big concrete table and to extract things for the highest climbing room. This is a citation of this is a quote of a movie from of James Gray, We Own the Night. We really like that movie. It's the story of two brothers. One is a gangster, and the other one is a cop. And the project is called also Love because of Loverval, but it's also a bit the story of our project. So it's the story of two little brothers, two siblings, and so on the left side is the new building, and on the right side it's the existing one. But by playing with them, by rotating them, we introduce new relationship. Once we do windows on the new one, we also add a window on the other side. Here there is a space of a tribune, which is inspired by the stockage, the storage room of the existing one. And so, such as the first project, it's not a matter of doing a new type of architecture, but it's more to work with already there. So it's the plan of the site where the climbing room appears. Here we took it also quite literally. This on the left side is the existing building, and here we just extracted it from the earth and give little details of foundation with co-altar, and like if we just took it from above. And we played also for the multi-sport hall with kind of mirror spaces from the inside. Here is the existing spaces, and here's the new one. The dilatation joint is with a big mirror pieces, and we play on the material, on the ceiling, to have the impression that you really cross something, or that there is maybe a mirror, but that there is. We play on tiny perception things instead of making wild operations. On the other side, outside, it's also we've played with the like a cut in the building. This is inspired by the inside. You will see it later on in the existing sports hall. This is the ground floor with two different entrances, the existing entrance and the new one coming from the sleeping places. So here again you have the new buildings and the existing ones with the storage here and the tribune there. Here again, a rough cut inspired by the inside of the other building. Here the underground part, because it takes a double eighth for the sports room. The existing sports room. Here we took advantage of the strong lower part in masonry, and the upper part is in light wood. And this is the new hall, where the structure is a bit thinner in order to have a maximum amount of space inside, and also for economical reasons. But we've put acoustic block on that lower part, and the upper part is just filled with wood. And that facade is also the outside facade of the other extension. So for the crossing, this is a photo collage, and we didn't want to look it. We were asked to build a bridge, but we wanted first to make more an extension of the landscape, to go on with that long table, and to give it really a sense of identity of the whole block. And so it carries from the existing topography until the spiral staircase. It is built with pre-constraint, post-constraint steel. So you pour the concrete, and then you just screw it in order to have it horizontal. And so there is a lot of steel in it, and the huge hole is meant to have less material, but also, so for the engineer it's less weight, but for us it's also to give a different perception between the road and the people looking from above. So one constraint was also the aids here, the levels. On one side, it's just a common level, 1.20 m of handrail, and on the other side, it's horizontal, but it's the aids of a net for a playground. So here. Where am I? Yeah, so it is, such as in the other project, it is more a work based upon the limits of intervention. It's more a huge piece of a landscape than just a new architecture. And by doing so, by leaving a bit the aesthetic aside, by doing that, other issues appears, and makes it sometimes even more interesting. So we like in the office to leave the aesthetics a bit later, to aesthetics is more a result of broader things, but it's never a goal in itself. By doing so, other issues appear, such as economy, shared program, how and why it was built like that. There are a ton of other questions to be curious about, and even so, if it looks, I don't know, common, there are a lot of things to seek into that kind of landscape, and it tells a lot of stories as well. So, as a conclusion, we like a lot that that collage taken from Pink Floyd. Not that we are a huge fan of Pink Floyd, but we like that images a lot, and we leave it open as a conclusion. And we'll be happy to discuss it with you around the drink.
Thank you very much. It all refers a little bit to your first projects about the beauty of the ordinary, I think. I was thinking about that, and it probably also about the beauty or the strangeness of the ordinary, the beauty of the strangeness of the ordinary. Is that also interesting for you?
Extraordinary, my English is so bad. Of the extraordinary of common also.
Gibt es Fragen? Sie können gerne auch auf Deutsch fragen, wir übersetzen auch. Keine Frage? Das kann ich nicht glauben. I would like to ask how you communicate your projects with the clients. I was always wondering if you would suggest an extension for a school like the Ursulinen project you showed us, if you would suggest that to Hamburg, that's the one who build schools here. How do you do that? Because it's so special and it's so sublime with all these stories behind it.
We told them at the end you will see, you will like it.
Really? Okay.
It's also through competitions, and those are not what we've seen here. It's not the beginning of the stories. Are
Ursuline it was a very very long process, and it was not so easy to arrive at that last solution, because some of the users, some of the teachers, they find it too common, nothing too rough. That in fact there is nothing. There is just a wall.
That's what I meant. That's what I think is difficult to explain. And
the story about the joint of the brick. One teacher told me, I don't believe it. It's true. Maybe it's a nice story, but at the end it will be awful. So, just you will see at the end it will. You will like it.
But for different projects, for Loverval, we've made a party recently for our new offices, and some small kids went there and they really liked us, and they really liked that building and told us that it was great. So people, I think architects are more, it's really important for architects to see objects and to see what's new and what was old, but sometimes for the users it's more a global environment, and sometimes it's really not so much interesting to work on one tiny thing. It's
So also when in a project we have not so much interest for form, but what's more important is the story that you are telling. So when the client of the public are following with that story, they follow the project also.
so you tell them the story. Okay. It's really interesting.
I think also what we try to do is to respond to the programmatic demands at first. At first, and when this is done, maybe they are confident and they
very rational plan.
These both guys here build schools in Hamburg, and they can't believe it, is it?
I can believe it. I can believe it. That it's good to tell a good story. I think it's. I'm not as old, but I think it's getting more and more important to tell stories to the clients, and not just to the clients, also to the public, to get acceptance. I think it could be better for us to learn more storytelling. Some people are very good in this. For example, the Danish people, I lived there once, they are very good storytellers normally, so everybody is good and like to tell long stories and funny stories. And maybe this is one of the reasons why, for example, Danish architecture is so kind of well accepted, especially in Denmark, for example. And here in Germany, I don't know why, I've never been to Belgium in an architecture context, but I think we have a big problem sometimes to find acceptance for the architecture. But what I like, and just a statement, no question, but what I like very much of your architecture is that it's kind of quiet. So it's not screaming here I am. So, but it's kind of love on the second side maybe. So if you cross, sometimes when you're on holiday and you drive with a bicycle or with a car, and you say, oh, this is kind of architecture. Just stop, and you take your wife and say, yeah, we have to go there. And say, why? Yeah, I think there's something cool. And I think your projects are more on the second side, and I like it very much that you are so quiet in the context of where you are. So just a comment.
Yeah, I also like to thank you for super interesting projects. I think I wonder where you in what kind of cultural context you put yourselves. I almost thought it's some sort of new romanticism. Because there has been or have been these cultural periods basically where people embraced kind of the old, also mimicking the old, also, and tailoring. I mean, you're not necessarily telling the story of the place, but you're also making up stories, right? So, do you see yourself somewhere within that context?
But no, but I think we're kind of in between generations where when we grew up in architecture schools, there were really kind of high-class, super modern architecture, and it didn't really match with the places where we lived, where, I mean, the first Super project is typically one houses we could have been raised into, and it was really bad in school to see those kind of projects. But we, on the other end, you lived there, and your neighbors lived there, and it was not bad or good. It was just, and there are a lot of things also to take care of, and I think we grew up with that kind of empathy of that environment.
I think you mentioned that in 2006 we made the Venice Biennale Pavilion with Beauty of the Ordinary, and in fact the subject came also through Belgian cinema. And maybe in a cultural way, our sight on things comes from there also. We are sharing a space for maybe 15 years now with some people that making cinema, but I don't think it's some kind of belief or rules. It's just when we were doing this Venice thing, we just thought that if you just expand the things you look at, you can find some very interesting things anywhere. With Thibaut, we like to drive on national roads because it's an incredible catalog of everything, and there are huge ideas you can take from there, maybe more than in architectural magazines. And maybe it's a bit of romanticism, yeah, but.
Also, it's we live in Belgium. Is a very common environment, and when we did the Biennale the year before, the French community, they make the subject. They call that les îles flottantes, floating islands. Yeah, and in fact, what they did, they put wallpaper with very very common houses that all the people buy on catalog, a little bit like a Super Jumet. And in the middle of the pavilion, they put a project of the French community, and that was the example. And for me, for us, it was really a problem to say, look at that, that's bad, and that's good. So we try to work with empathy with the context, and not really looking for make a modern architecture of form, but more how you can tell a story. And it's not only telling the story for the client, it's the building himself who is telling the story.
Another question?
It's just quite interesting just to see a little bit of a different culture, maybe. Even if you mentioned cinema, I've heard you pointed out the story, and I've seen you have really strong forms like geometric circles, and so there is a view on this part of architecture too, and then you have special images, just you end with a picture, and you mentioned cinema. So now I'm interested in how do you balance these things, and I think you get a good way to put these things together, and so I'm interested in the way how you proceed with your drawings or sketches or photos, or how do you work on models?
I think the way we work is very organic. It's like, as you saw, we're a small team, and until now we're friends having fun together. And maybe to answer another question that was also, how do you convince people? The way we make a photo collage or drawing is also maybe that's why we like also this image, is that there is some kind of blurry blurry balance between what can be realistic and what can still leave some place to the imagination of people looking at it. And this we try to do in the collage, and maybe also in the architecture, just like leave a little space free for things to come.
Yeah. On the other hand, we are a small team, but we discuss a lot. Every project is discussed between us, and yeah, for example, I mean, I'm sure you've all experienced that. It's to choose the color of something in a building. It's something totally unobjective, and we tried, because we never agreed on those questions. One solution we had is to find the color of the materials, that the material itself is the colors. And so by doing that, we see first if it's waterproofed, if it lasts long, if it's cheap, or is it expensive. And by doing that, at the end we agree on something. And the way to push a bit further the aesthetic, to leave a bit aside the aesthetic, it gives you other tips to think about.
Are there any more questions?
Not very big change maybe, but when you talk about storytelling, and I think it was more about the materials and the volumes and how to stick things together, parts, but asking for the floor plans, for example. So, for example, when we came back to the school buildings. So I try to. Is there also a story between you and the users, not the clients, but the users, like the teachers and the children? That, for example, you build a extension for the school and you say, okay, this is a new story. So it's a kind of story which fits together to the existing, but it's something new. Is there also a way for using the building different? Like if you make like a floor plan with classrooms, which looked very normal for me. So was there also your aim to tell that people use the house different than the old school house, for example? You know, like, because the pedagogic is changing a lot in centuries. So maybe you can give an offer to the teachers to use other rooms than they have.
Yes, but by example, now for Malines, the plans are very standard, very circulation, stair at both case, class, but that building is one of both that we build there, and there is other small intervention. In fact, it's just a part of the project. It's not the focus. We don't try to make extraordinary space in that building, because what's more important is the space between the buildings in that case. Because the school use all the block. It's just a piece of the school for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand what you say about the quite normative plan we showed tonight. Maybe some other project show different things when it's possible, because the school building context is also very on a tight budget, and so it's also difficult to propose. We already tried to propose more polyvalent spaces, generic spaces like large circulation, shared circulation that can become a classroom, outside classrooms and things like that. We try to put this into our project, but usually reality comes back soon. And yeah, I think it's a long way, but I hope we will be able to do more than corridors and classrooms soon.
By example, we also try to make outside circulation, also for Ursulinen, but at the end, no. Also the client here, it was specific because that project is a DBFM, Design, Build, Maintenance and Finance. So it means that us client is a bank. Yeah? And by example, if you look to Loverval, the client is a French community. We built now it's the third or the fourth building that we make for the French community. It's completely different than work for BNP Paribas Fortis. It's a completely different. In that project, by example, Ursuline, you have a pool of different constructors. They give them different projects, and normally they have a marge. To make economy, and in that one they can make no economy. Normally they say, wow, 5-6% we can find, and here they find nothing, because we start in so Ursuline is one of it's a program of the Flemish community where they build and transform under 150 schools in Flanders. 150 school in Flanders, and we were chosen by the Flemish bouwmeester, and we were an exception. There were only 10 model projects that the bouwmeesters can choose, and je ne sais plus ce que je voulais dire moi. On était où moi? Yes, and so yes, it's what I mean. So the constructor can take your project and transform it to make economy, but they make so much pressure on us because it was maybe 4 or 5 years before we start the building, and it was into construction. At one moment, we think here they would never build that building because it was very expensive. At first, that building was 3 levels high, and there was the sport hall. We can show you the plans that are completely different and more complex. Because the urban planner of the city say not more than 3 stairs. 3 levels. So we put the sport hall underground, half underground, that they can put light on the ground floor, and up them 2 levels of classes with all the problematic of the structure above the sport area. And what's happened? It's project was almost finished, and the urban planner, not of the city but of the region, he arrived and he say it's loose change because the square meters that we not build now, we never build it in the future. And then they ask us to start again, and we put, it's why we have 3 levels in one type of bricks, and then 2. It's because it's the story of the project. It was for 3 levels, and after we put 2 more. And it was 2 years for, at the end, more, building more and higher. It's Belgium, it's surrealistic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Label Architecture, for coming to Hamburg and showing us your interesting projects and stories. Thank you. Und jetzt hat es passend aufgehört zu regnen. Da steht ein bisschen italienischer Kleinigkeiten. Wir holen den Wein aus dem Kühlschrank und Sie sind alle herzlich eingeladen, noch ein bisschen zu diskutieren. Vielen Dank.